Well, Renee, thank you so much for being here with me on the Entrepreneurial Success Podcast. I am thrilled to bits to have you here because we are going to talk about leadership. And I know this is a topic that I love talking about as well. And you said you're so passionate about it. However, before we dive into this and share a little bit more with the audience, why don't I hand over to you so you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Thanks for having me. On the other side of the pond, and not only the other side of the pond, but the other side of the country from the other side of the pond. So I'm dialing in from British Columbia, Canada, and I'm actually looking out right now at the mountains. So breathtaking. So a little bit about myself. I am from the East Coast of Canada, and I grew up as an entrepreneur. One day, my mom told me to go out and get a SIN card so that I can get a job. And I said, no, I heard entrepreneurs make a lot of money and they don't work a lot of hours. So I'm going to start my own business. And went into business with my sister and we co-managed a restaurant together for 4 years. And funny enough, I worked 70 or 80 hours a week. So I worked more than everybody else. But the entrepreneurial bug was kind of planted a very long time ago. I've been now an entrepreneur for about 23 or 24 years, and not to age myself. And I've had the odd job here and there, but there's something about, having the freedom to work on the projects that I want to work on with the people that I want to work with and lead the people that I want to lead. That was inspiring for me to continue on this path. My big claim to fame is winning awards for one of my agencies. I ran a PR agency pretty much out of San Francisco that had clients from South Africa to San Francisco. And we worked with funded technology startups. I did that for about 6 years. I launched it when I was 8 months pregnant with my first son and then had my second baby in the same year. So in the first year of the agency, I had 2 newborns because they're Irish twins. Yeah. So in that, my husband was also having his startup acquired and raising around for another startup. So he was on airplanes, we were high-fiving in airports, I was coming, he was going. All that to say, after 6 years, I burnt out and I just needed to step back. And I did, but with an entrepreneur mind, and I'm a quick starter, I started another business. And what led to what is now called We Wild Women, where I coach and inspire female entrepreneurs to hit their first million in revenue. And I know the space very, very well. And I work with some incredible women from all over the world. And that is where I am today.
That is really amazing. I love your story. And I think, it's so inspiring to hear how you you felt that was your calling, being an entrepreneur. Where so many people start off, obviously, in the corporate world, getting comfortable up until a point where they go like, oh, I want to change, I want to do something else. And obviously then they hit the entrepreneurial world, which is equally fine. But I think, with all of the years of experience that you've accumulated as an entrepreneur, running different businesses, going through all of those, can I say, highs and lows that everybody is experiencing, you've got so much to share with people. And, when I read about We Wild Women, I thought, this is amazing. This is fantastic. So many people could really benefit from this, and hearing from your experience and from other people's experience, what it is that they all go through, but equally how they can grow and how they can move forward as an entrepreneur, because there are a lot of highs and a lot of lows equally, I think. And a lot of people don't talk about the lows. They always just talk about the highs, really. And that's what you see, unfortunately, all over Instagram or social media, so to speak.
Exactly. And then one of the biggest things is leadership. I know as entrepreneurs, we have this great idea for a product or a service, and we go about maybe validating this idea and taking the next step into launching our company. And one thing most entrepreneurs don't do is think that they're a leader. And so because they never can identify as being a leader, then they don't end up being great managers. And every problem in business is a people problem. Yeah. And what I mean by that, if there's a mistake, if there's anything that happens good or bad in a business, it's because of somebody or a group of people. And as entrepreneurs, we are immediate leaders, even if it's just you, because you probably have contractors or freelancers that are working for you, and you have to lead them no matter what. And one of the biggest things I'm seeing right now is women are really starting to figure out, oh my gosh, I am a leader. People are looking to me for inspiration and motivation. I need to do something to make these people feel like they're doing a good job. And yeah, so that's been like a huge topic as of late, and one of which I can say that I've been through the ringer in terms of leadership, and I have stories. I've been at war before. And you know what? I think it's okay. It's okay that these things happen. I mean, some of the best lessons learned come out from the like worst struggles. But leadership absolutely is something that every entrepreneur, anyone starting a business, or even like upper management and executive, they need to know how to be a good leader.
Yeah, yeah. And this is something that I find as well, personally for myself, because, you know, coming from corporate work, stepping into the entrepreneurial role, you don't see yourself as a leader. You see yourself as somebody who's now starting this thing, and you've got to run it and you've got to manage it, but you have no clue what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So one of those things that you don't even think about is, I'm a leader. I need to step up because I need to serve my clients. I need to serve my audience. And I think one of the biggest aspects is, like you said, when I literally tapped into that, I realized like, oh my gosh, this is something that I've never tapped into before, realizing that I'm a leader. So, you know, with time and with everything going on, when we're in the entrepreneurial world, like you said, we start off small, maybe you're working just for yourself, and then you start getting a VA and you start getting some people on a contract basis helping you out. But let's talk a little bit about that moment when you become a leader, when you start having people around you. What was that like for you as an example? Can you share an example of when you figured it out for the first time, like, oh my gosh, I've got a team now?
Yeah, well, so my agency went from my business partner and I to 12 employees really quickly. But I think the defining moment for me was going into starting that agency. I had a woman at the time, her name is Chanel, and she is an incredible lady that's worked with me forever. She started working for me when she was 18 years old. And what happened was I tweeted something that I needed somebody to help me do some writing. And she goes, I write. And then we did some articles together, and I would pay her per article, to the point where it was like, she was on retainer, and then she was working with me, and then she was working with me full time at one of my other agencies. And I brought her over to the new agency. That was the moment when I realized, oh my gosh, like I need to make this work, because she's relying on me to help her pay her bills. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm not doing the job to actually grow my business and to earn the revenues, then she can't get paid. And not only that, but she's looking at me for like direction, for inspiration and motivation. And I think that was the pivotal moment. She was so young, but like a hustler, a really good committed employee. And I wanted to see her succeed. Now, my biggest mistake in the whole, there was two things in the leadership thing where like my biggest mistake was. One is I wanted to be everybody's friend. And when you're the founding member of a company and you want to grow it big, I mean, really any size, is you can't just say, I want to be a friend first and then a leader. The reality is most of your team coming up below you, beside you, around you, they're not looking for another friend. They're looking for somebody who can guide them, to watch, to be inspired by them, to be motivated by them, and to be disciplined. They're not looking for friends. And that was the biggest mistake I made as a leader. I was so worried about people not liking me. It's like, yes, people aren't going to like you. You're not for everybody. And once I became okay with that, I became okay with being the person I needed to be for my team. And it wasn't their friend. I cared for them. I supported them. We treated them so well, but it doesn't mean I'm going to call them up on a Friday night and say, let's go grab a drink at the local pub. No. And the other thing that I failed at in terms of leadership was not taking the extra time and attention to train the team properly. Because, you know, when we're like, we need to hire, it's busy, I need to find somebody to offload this work to, where we fail as leaders is not taking that extra time to properly train them, because we're already out of time because we're so busy. That's why we're outsourcing. That's why we're hiring. But we fail to actually take the necessary steps to make sure they're properly onboarded. And that's where errors happen. That's where people start losing their motivation because they're confused. They're like, they're not supposed to do. And you're like, figure it out. Those were those two big failures. And like, I have to remind myself even today, like, you know, a nanny, we have a nanny at the house. She's not just here to watch the kids and like help clean the house. There's more to it than that, but she looks to me as a leader. Mm-hmm. And it's like, so you think about like anybody in your life that you manage or you pay for anything, you have to be the example. And it's exhausting sometimes. And it means that you can't come to work with your baggage. You can't, make stupid jokes about things. You have to be the example.
Yeah. No, I love your example in particular. And I think, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking of myself as the moment as well, because I've got contractors and people helping me in my business and how I showed up. And it's so true. When in the beginning, you do want to become people's friend, you do want to be the nice person, but you can't. There's got to be a boundary somewhere that you've got to say, this is me, I'm a professional and these are the rules that I want to put in place. And then equally the training. Oh my gosh, this is something actually that I learned in corporate, actually, when I started having people underneath me, is the training that you put into those people can take you so far. Because if you really invest the time in them, they can take so much off your plate. And it actually is one of the best feelings in the world, knowing that you've trained somebody, they know exactly what they're doing, and you don't have to worry about them. You know that they're working to the best of their capability. And equally, if they do struggle with something, they'll come to you and they'll ask you about it. And it's not going to be one of those where you just bang your head against the wall going, does she get it? Does he get it? Am I making sense? Are they going to do it right? Are they going to get this done in time? There's so many things that can go wrong.
Well, and here's the thing on that point is, yes, that is like the ultimate outcome is you properly train them and they do a really good job. Yeah. A lot of the women I coach from the leadership perspective, they come to me and they always ask the same questions. Renee, what happens if I spend all of this time training them and they leave? And I go, guess what? It's gonna happen. And there is nothing you can do about it. Yeah. Your job is to make sure that they're so motivated and inspired that if and when they do leave, you still have a good relationship with them. And maybe they're referring customers to you from their other company. Yes, it's gonna happen. But if you do it well, you actually train those people to create and update their own standard operating procedures so that when they leave, that they have perfect documentation to train the next person coming up.
Yeah.
And so I don't think there's ever a loss of time or any money or resources if you properly train anybody that's working for you. Never, because you'll go through the procedures like, oh, why are you doing this? That's an extra 5 hours a week of wasted time. Let's just not do that anymore. And sometimes you don't know unless you're taking the time to train. But a good leader makes sure that the team has what they need, especially from you. And you have to put aside the notion that they're going to leave or they're going to want a raise or something's going to happen, because yes, it's inevitable. It's 100% going to happen. And you have to just accept it. Now, the best outcome is that they stay for a really, really long time and they grow with the organization.
Yeah, exactly. And I think from a personal perspective, because I'm a coach just like you are, is for me, it's if I work with people knowing that even though in business they grow, but the self-development that they go through as well as an individual, the growth that they go through while working with me, that is also something that I'm glad to participate in. So yes, if they do leave, one day, that's okay. But at least I can say I've been a part of their lives and I've kind of helped them with their personal development as well. So yes, from a business aspect, obviously we don't want the employees to leave. But if they do, which is the inevitable, at least you can say, well, they're leaving with a little bit of something that they've learned from you, and they can take that with them throughout their lives. And that's kind of something to be proud of, really.
Yeah. And as a leader, you will have failed if your team hasn't had any growth.
Yeah.
Like you want your team, because the person that they need to become to be a better person in their roles, like part of that's your responsibility. Right? They say even in business, it's like the person that you are today is not the person you need to be to make $1 million in your business. And it's the same with employees. It's like, yes, I mean, the best bet is they're just promoted to a higher position. And then they already know the organization as opposed to leaving. I mean, I think leadership, even as a parent, I see it, and my kids have taught me patience. They've taught me patience. They've taught me even like parents know that kids see and hear everything. They see it and you're like, well, how did you learn how to say that word? Well, my mom, it's because you say it. Good to know. And that's reflective as a leader too. So on calls and meetings with my team, it's the same thing. They're like, well,
Yeah.
you said that or you did that. So then I think it's okay to do it. It's like, true. It's not okay to do it, but it's true. You saw it. So it kind of gives them permission to act the way you do.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got to be vigilant yourself as well as how you show up as a leader, and be very careful in what you say as well, because sometimes people pick up on things a lot quicker than you expect.
Yeah, and
So
everybody's different, right? So like they'll internalize different things. Like I might
yeah,
say to one person, Tony Robbins is the best. Always start, if you're giving feedback, you always start with a positive thing and then you give the feedback. But I might say, oh, you didn't do a great job writing that blog post to one person. They're like, you're right, it's crap. And they'll do it over again. But then the next person would internalize that for a week.
mm-hmm.
Right. So it depends on how many people you manage or lead, but people take the same information and they internalize it differently. And so
Yeah,
you have to be mindful of that too. There's not like one size fits all for everybody on a team.
yeah, yeah. Very, very true. Talk to us about leadership skills. What kind of leadership skills do you think people who are running a business need to zone in on in order to grow their business?
100% communication.
Oh yeah, love that.
Communication. I would say 99% of the time, most leaders under communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've never seen a leader, and I'm not talking micromanaging. Okay. So there's a difference between micromanaging and leading and over communicating. Over communicating helps people feel connected. A great leader sets the vision and constantly reminds their team of the vision because they need to know what they're working towards. Most people are not motivated by money. They're motivated by making a difference, by having an impact and seeing that change, whether it's in the community or the people they're serving. So a leader needs to set the vision, but communicate that all the time and communicate the feedback and communicate what's going on. And I'd say where I became a better leader was when that communication happened.
Yeah.
And kept the secrets where the secrets need to be kept, but also like share the information. It's like, I remember one time my agency was going through due diligence because another company, a bigger agency, wanted to acquire ours. And obviously through the due diligence and through all that, you don't want to tell your team that this is happening, because if you're smart enough to know that if you're being acquired, there's a potential that you'll lose your job.
Yeah.
And it got to the very last moment in which we needed to tell them because they were going to start to figure something out. I remember sitting there thinking, wow, this was like a super great outcome. And part of our like conditions in acquiring our company was that our team would still have their jobs.
Yeah.
But it's not guaranteed. So, at the end of the day, the team they were really weird for a couple of weeks. And I kept asking, like, how are you doing? Like, tell me, like, it's okay, feel like comfortable communicating with me how you feel about this. Nobody wanted it to happen. Even though it meant bonuses and increase in pay, nobody wanted to be acquired. And in my mind, I'm like, well, that's not their decision to make. But these people became family to me. Mm-hmm. And in hindsight, we didn't want to have a 2 to 3 year earnout. We didn't want to go work for somebody else. That wasn't the point of our company. So the great leader respects the team. And we made the decision to not go through with it because it was like our family. We would just be essentially handing over our family to somebody else we didn't really know. And no regrets at all. Zero regrets.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, whenever I meet somebody and they say, oh my gosh, I've got to do this and I'm working on this and I've got this person to help me. And it's like, well, are you communicating with that person or with those people that you are getting to help you on a project, as an example? And I still find it so hard when people say, yeah, I'm telling them what we're doing, but I haven't sat down with them yet. It's like, oh my gosh, it's one thing to kind of just send them a quick email. It's another thing to sit and explain and communicate what the sole purpose is, what the goal is that you're all working together with. Mm-hmm. Oh, it makes my heart almost flutter in a bit. It's like, no, communication. And I couldn't agree with you more, because that's where I've seen projects fail time and time again. And even where business is up to the brink of, having to close their doors because there's no communication.
It's crazy. And I think about this, like in my agency, we'd have team stand-ups every Monday and Friday. And the whole point of it was Monday was like kind of set the pace for the week, reflect what's happening, the meetings, the things that are due. And then Friday was kind of like, it was always wins, roadblocks, and commitments for next week. And in those moments, I could say, okay, like Jared over there, I can sense he's a little frustrated and overwhelmed by something. So I'd always pull him aside. Like, dude, what's going on? And he'd be like, I won't get this done by Friday. I'm like, that's cool. Thanks for letting me know. I'm going to help you get it done. That's a good leader. And the leader is again, setting the vision, but also putting time aside for each person that's a direct report to make sure that they're succeeding in their role.
Yeah.
And the communication is key. It's the, good job on that last week. Or like, I'm so sorry you didn't deliver that on time. How can I help next time? Is there any resources we can pull from to make sure you do really well next time? Because it's a team sport. It's not just about the CEO or the founder looking like their best. Like no entrepreneur I know has ever been successful without people, without a team, without other mentors and coaches. And I can't think of a single person. Your team is the most important asset in your company. Not only that, like we're talking about like direct reports and managing a company, but there's also leadership in the community and leadership, even like social media, how people follow you when you inspire them. It's like there's leadership everywhere. There's people, I don't know, I have like maybe 4,200 followers on Instagram, and I'll get messages from people that I don't even know follow me. They've never engaged with me. They never liked anything. And all of a sudden I get this big, long, beautiful message about the story I shared a month ago that's changed the trajectory of their business or parenting. And I was like, wow, most of the time we don't know that we're actively leading.
Yeah.
And we have to think about like, yes, like being a leader is tough. Yes, it's okay to cry. Yes, it's okay to be angry and frustrated, but make sure that it's like, it makes sense. And that the people that are seeing it, it's a point of reference or an example for them too. It's okay to show those signs as well. I don't want to say weakness. It's not weakness. It's okay to be frustrated, but just know, because it also makes you more relatable.
Yes.
Like
authentic. It makes you more authentic as a person.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially as women, if you're leading women. But yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I have to constantly remind myself too, is Renee, you're a leader. Like Renee, you're going out there, you're going to check the mail at your post office box and somebody's going to cut you off, and you have the option of just understanding, man, they're probably having a terrible day. Or you can flip them the bird and be like, screw you. Most of the time it's just people are having a bad day. So be the example, right?
Yeah, exactly. If it's okay, there's another skill that I want to add to this, which I find is a tough one for leaders. And this is commitment. If you say you're going to do something, especially to your team, you need to see it through. Or if you're not seeing it through, at least let them know what the valid reason is. What is like you said, are you going in a different trajectory? Is there change that's happening? But I've seen this time and time again, that if somebody says they're going to do something and they don't follow through, oh my gosh, it's so demotivating for a team. And I don't just mean a full-time employee. I mean, even if you just work with contractors or, in my case, when female entrepreneurs get VAs, if you say you're going to do something, you don't follow through with it, that's a no-go. I'm sorry. You've got to be very open and honest there.
That's a communication thing too. But you got to walk the walk. It's easy to say stuff. It's easy to be like, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'm going to go to CrossFit 5 times a week because I said that, because it's easy to say that. And I don't, I go 3 times, but it's okay if it happens once in a while. Life happens, things happen, right? New information. It's like, hey, I wanted to launch this. I started this, and I printed these beautiful morning practice planners for female entrepreneurs. And I felt guilty because I didn't launch it when I was going to. And I went through with like setting up an entire Kickstarter and all these things. And I was like, you know what? The timing wasn't right. And I listened to an episode by Angie Lee on her podcast about how she was going to launch something or do this thing, and they were pretty much at the day, and she decided now's not the time. And I said, with conviction and like such integrity, she's like, this wasn't the right time. Like maybe not now, maybe not in the future. I don't know. It could be a year from now, which gave me permission to not launch the planner, even though there's people that are actively waiting for this thing to come out. And the point of this is like, communicate why it's not happening. And yes, I'm committed to seeing this thing through eventually, but here's what happened was I got it printed and bound, and it wasn't what I wanted, but I was like, maybe it's good enough. Renee, don't strive for perfection here. it was not what I envisioned when I came up with this planner. And it sat on my desk for months. And I'm like, what is the block? Why am I not going through with this right now? There's nothing stopping me. And I was like, I looked at it. It's gorgeous. It's like leather-like soft cover bound. It's black with like engraved gold, whatever. But I wanted a light pink cover. And I wanted something more girly and feminine. And so I'm like, why didn't I just change the cover? And so I finally did. And now I was like, now's the time to do this. But I communicated that to my community. I was like, hey guys, I'm not doing this right now because I just don't like design. This is not my vision for this. This was somebody else's that seemed to have an influence over me. The communication for them was important. And I was like, here's my other ideas. And I showed them like, Renee, we love this more. And so they waited. And I was like, thank you for waiting. But yes, as leader, you have to commit. And sometimes things will happen. You get sideswiped or this other thing happens. Communicate why you've changed the plan, but know that, you can't do that often. You got to walk the walk. You got to be the example.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I'm so glad you said that as well, because I think a lot of people can resonate with that. So my question to you is, do you have a couple of tips that you can share with the audience on how to become a better leader?
Okay. So one thing I do as of late is every morning. So I have this app on my phone called Headway. Have you heard of that before?
Oh, yes.
Headway. Okay.
Headway, yes.
And essentially what it is like a summary of the top chapters in books, like the top books. So right now I'm listening to leadership and management books. And so every morning I listen to that. I put on my noise canceling headphones and check emails, and I listen to these, and I get notes, and I'll share some of that information with the people that I'm coaching. And so as a leader, one of the big tips is you always have to be learning. You have to be evolving. You have to be changing. The other thing is the over communication, because we think we're over communicating. And most times, especially men, when I'm like, hey, over communicate, their over communication is just good enough. Right? But you were right. You hit it bang on when you said FaceTime. If you're managing a smaller team, get the FaceTime. If it's scheduled, reoccurring weekly, or if you're like, hey, I want to sit and chat with you, because you'll get better insight as to why they're doing so well or where they're failing, but they'll also feel like they're seen and heard, and that's the thing is most people just want to feel significant.
Yes.
Want to be seen. That's it. And if you can say, good job last week on this thing that you did, that to them is gold. It is gold.
Yeah. And I think, as an individual, we can never stop learning. I mean, especially if you're in the entrepreneurial world. Oh my gosh, there's still so much to learn. If you think you know it all, you don't.
No.
So, and self-development, I think, is one of the biggest things you can do for yourself, because if you don't develop as an individual, learn more about yourself and what you're capable of, you can't grow your business equally. So as a leader, it's your responsibility almost in order to keep on educating yourself, regardless if it's business or if it is self-development, but you have to keep learning every single day.
Yeah, no, exactly. And whatever it is that you're doing, even if you're not a leader, right? It's like if you want to be the best, I don't know, cross-country runner in the world, it's like, how can you improve today by 1%? That's what I say, every day is 1% better. What is something you can do today to be 1% better at? At the end of the year, you're 365% better at something. And it could be like waking up 10 minutes earlier, or whatever it is, 1% improvement is huge over time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the tiniest little steps that you take today. Today you can do the tiniest little thing. You can read a couple of pages in a book. Tomorrow it could be, read a couple of more pages, and every single day you're accumulating information, you're growing at the same time. So I think when we say, keep on educating yourself, people go, oh my gosh, now I need to sign up to do a course, or now I need to sign up and do something at university. Or it's like, no. Take a book and just read a couple of chapters or a couple of pages, even not a couple of chapters. I won't do that to you, but at least just try it and read a couple of pages a day. Even if you just have your cup of coffee in the morning, just sit there with a book and just read it and just look at what you can learn from a couple of pages. You'll be very surprised.
even just randomly going on TED Talks and going under leadership and just randomly choosing a video and watching that video, because they're what, 16, 18 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
And like every morning when I'm getting ready, putting on my makeup, I always listen to a podcast, always. And people are like, well, what's your favorite podcast? And I don't have a favorite one. I have one based on what I need at that time. It could be a parenting podcast. It could be a marriage podcast. It could be a book writing podcast. And it's like the information I need now is where I'm educating myself. So now it happens to be leadership. Yeah. But last month it was building marketing funnels.
I know. And this is the best part, you know, there's no limits. You can absolutely just look at what it is that you need at that moment in time, exactly like you said, and just go and find the information and just educate yourself around it.
Yes, just in time.
Especially today, we're so fortunate to live with all of this technology where we've got all of this at our fingertips.
For free.
For free.
Like my anniversary gift for my husband was an electric drum set, because I've been taking drum lessons for a couple of years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is awesome, because now I'm not just like confined to hiring a drumming instructor in my region. Now I can open up Zoom and I can hire a drumming instructor from anywhere in the world. And I plug in my kit to my laptop and they can instruct me. And I was like, brilliant, right? So there's no limits now. No limits.
That's amazing. Yeah. See, technology makes it so much easier for us.
So there's no excuses. I would always put in, like, open up a notes file on your phone. Anytime you have a question about leadership, put it in there and then go and search online. You'll find podcasts and ebooks and videos about it. Answer those questions when you need that information. Because like, I'm not going to go and, learn about how to reforest a forest. And I'm looking out right now, there's like forest fires literally happening across the lake from me. I'm not going to go out and learn how to plant 1,000 trees in a day, because I don't need that information right now. But hey, maybe one day if I volunteer, I need that information. Because we're in an age of information overload. Get what you need now and then implement it. If it means you have to over communicate with your team, then that's your focus. Start over communicating with your team and start having that FaceTime.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, couldn't have said it better myself. Renee, thank you so much for just being here and just sharing so much more for your experience and sharing your story as well. Talk to us a little bit about leadership, because it's like you said in the beginning, every one of us, we are a leader. Whether you're a mom, whether you're an entrepreneur, you are a leader. When you start showing up and talking to people and helping other people, you are definitely a leader. So it doesn't matter where you are and what you're doing. But for those of you listening, actually Renee's got an amazing freebie that she would like to share here with you today. So Renee, why don't you tell us about the freebie that you have available for the audience?
Yeah, so talking about leadership and how this connects is called your Do-It-Yourself Media Kit. And funny enough, so my previous agency was a PR agency, of which I still do work with companies. I teach and coach on PR, as well as I have a handful of clients that I service. But as a leader, so anytime I coach somebody on PR, there's always two positionings. There's the positioning of the product or service and the positioning of the founder, the leader. And as much as you want to deny it, as an entrepreneur, you are the face of the company, especially when you're first starting out, and you have to get comfortable with promoting yourself. So in this Do-It-Yourself Media Kit, I teach you how to create a media kit, of which you can create one for yourself. So you can start pitching the media.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. And I think for my audience, actually, we did speak about PR at one point. So my audience is definitely all about, what can I do in order to get out there and do my own PR? So thank you so much for making this media kit available. So for those of you listening or watching this video, the link will be below in my show notes. So you can obviously go and download. And if you want to get in contact with Renee, by all means, I'll have a website. I'll have all the social media links below in the show notes as well. So go stalk her, check her out. Get in touch with her, ask her questions if you want, and I'm sure she'd love to listen out for you or either help out if you have any questions specifically for her. Renee, thank you so much for the time being here and just sharing so much information. I know everybody's making crazy notes, and I hope that they could take away a couple of things from you as well. Thank you so much for your time, for being here.
And thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. We'll speak soon.